I'm excited because it's a very personal movie you're about to see, and it's had quite a little journey. It's a truly independent film. This was a small movie, and in some ways we beat the odds that we made it this far. So I'm absolutely thrilled to be at Arclight, one of my favorite movie theaters that I've ever been to. So I hope you guys enjoy this movie. I want to let you know that tonight we have with us Mary Steenburgen, Reid Scott, Gillian Jacobs, Ginger Gonzaga, and Briga Heelan, who are all in the film. So this is a special one for us tonight. Thanks to the Arclight members. I want to be one. I don't even know about this membership thing, so I'm going to join you, I think. Thanks for coming. And we have a Q&A afterwards. So I hope you stick around. We'll do a quick conversation up here. And I just felt the mic kind of crap out there for a sec, so I just probably need to leave. So, thanks. I hope you like the movie. It is a comedy. It is actually a comedy. So if you think it's funny, yeah, be a human being. Do me a favor and laugh. So that's it. Thank you. So if it's cool with them, please welcome Mary Steenburgen, Briga Heelan, Ginger Gonzaga, and Reid Scott. Cool, so what we're going to do, I thought we would just do a quick kind of conversation Q&A, but depending on how interested you guys are, I'd rather throw it to you if you want to ask questions or direct the conversation a bit, and then we'll call it a night. I want to start by saying thank you to you guys so much for being in the movie, going to Tribeca, and now here, finally, coming out tonight to, help support the movie and everything. I haven't moderated before, but I have a couple things that I think I can kick it off. I wanted to start by saying thanks, and I'm sorry to each of the cast members here for some things I did as a first-time director. First, I want to start with Mary, who was very gracious and so generous to do the movie. Yeah, thank you. Mary has been quite busy, and when we were shooting, I think you had 3 days, maybe? It was 2 or 3 days she was available, but she said, I want to do it, and she was able to fit in to her schedule to come and work on our movie for nothing, which everybody did. It's this great thing they call favored nations, which just means you get paid garbage. And if you remember, when we shot ours,
you guys got paid?
Yeah, exactly. So we shot Mary's scenes, everything, I think in 2 days or something. It was really crazy. It was kind of whirlwind. So the scene in the restaurant when she's on a date with Kevin, that was, I think, around 5 a.m. Yeah, that was about 5 a.m. at Penn Station in New York. So I want to say thank you for doing it, and I'm sorry. That was brutal. It was really rough. But you were you were just so kind and gracious when you were there and the time that you gave to the movie, so I really appreciate it. Is there any takeaway for you? Do you remember anything specific about working on it, or how was it working with Kevin at such kind of a breakneck pace? You guys are friends and you've worked together before, but...
Can I ignore your moderator questions?
Sure.
And just say whatever I want?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, I'm trying to be official here. I have a blazer on and
You're
stuff.
doing really good, but I know better. I have actually moderated.
Okay. Oh, good. Can you switch? We can switch seats.
Yeah. First of all, I want to say I wasn't able to go to Tribeca, and that is the first time I saw the movie.
Yeah.
And I love that movie so.
Oh, I'm so glad.
So much.
Oh, thanks. That means a lot.
I would give my favored nation's money back to you.
$500.
If I hadn't already spent it. But I'm honored to be in it.
Oh, thank you.
And I love the way I was a fan before we made that movie because my son Charlie McDowell told me to look at your books, and then I loved how you saw the world, and your books made me laugh so much, and your drawings made me laugh so much, and that I'm just knocked out by it as somebody who's lost people I love. It's one of the biggest things you have in life is how you deal with loss, and I loved that your heart is all up there on the screen, and I love the music, and I love the whole thing. So I'm honored to be in it. I don't remember the kind of bullshit question you
Okay, so
whatever. That just suffices the answer.
Well, one of my favorite scenes in the movie is your scene with Kevin by the elevator in your building in the story.
Yeah.
I love what you guys did, and to me, it just felt very real and tender, and that gave it away. One of my concerns was that Kevin and Mary would be in the same movie as the rest of us because of who they are and their experience, and also I'm a first timer here, so tone is a tricky kind of elusive thing, and I think it worked out. I think you guys are in the same movie as the rest of us, but it's a split kind of story.
That and the fact that it is different when you're older. It is a different. Everything is different. Rejection, or someone saying no to you, or being even excited about connecting with somebody when there have been lots and lots and lots of those moments in your life and loss in your life. And I feel like, in a weird way, I mean, I thought about that when I watched it. I thought, I hope it feels like we are in the same movie, but in a weird way, it is different.
Yeah.
It is different when you're our age,
Yeah, and at the same time, like Kevin's kiss, I love it when you guys kind of get to your building, and his physicality is one of the things I love about Kevin, is that his kind of physical comedy. And you guys, I thought, were really wonderful together. And it was run and gun, right? We were just walking with the camera. And there was a funny moment where, when they're walking after their date, after they saw the play, and we all watched the playback because it was just a Steadicam shot. We shot it 2 sizes, but there wasn't really much to cut. There's not like singles of them. It was just like, cool, we'll do this a few times and we'll get the best take and that'll be it. So we were watching it together. We all stood after one of the takes. And I got really excited. As we were watching, I was like, yes! And I turned to Mary and I said, you guys stopped right near a huge pile of garbage, right when the magic of like the lie that you were telling each other was, evaporating, and you just kind of coincidentally stopped. Like garbage came into the, it was just there. We didn't set the garbage; it was just real garbage. And Mary was like, "You're excited about a pile of garbage?" You were like, "We're acting my hearts out." I was like, "Look at the garbage; it's perfect." So you learned a lot of lessons your first time around.
Well, you learned good.
Oh, thanks. So Ginger, I wanted to say thanks for being in the movie. And one of the things that, you learn stupid things that you should think of ahead of time. There's a shot in the movie where Gillian and I are talking. Gillian had a 5 a.m. call, that's why she's not here. She likes the movie, she told me, she saw it before, so she didn't storm out of here or anything like, you son of a bitch. She told me she apologized at him, so I'm sorry, I forgot to say it. But anyway, remember Gillian and I are shooting on the street, and then you beat the horn. And Ginger was such an amazing collaborator, and you were such a good sport about some of the stuff. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing sometimes. So anyway, she made up everything to sit in the car and beep the horn, and at the end of the night I'm like, I'm so sorry, Ginger. You don't even see her, and she fucking sat in this car we were like to wait for us to get a certain point in the scene to go, and then when she had to go home, I'm like, it was only at the end of the night that I realized, I'm so sorry. So I never really apologized to you. But I thought you did a wonderful job. Ginger is such a sweet person and a good friend, and I gave her a very bitchy role here to play, which I think you did beautifully. And Ginger was the first person I cast. Yeah. You were the first person I cast of the actual casting sessions I got to do. Ginger came in, and immediately I was like, oh, I think she's great. Just so funny and believable and real. And I have to say, as a first-time director, what I was looking for in everyone was just vulnerability. I'm trying to tell a sincere story. We live in a pretty snarky world these days, especially for comedy. So I was just looking for people who are willing to trust me and be a little vulnerable and be in the scenes and really feel what they're feeling and not give like an ironically distanced performance. So, do you know what I mean? I just feel like that's a thing these days. And I was grateful. I feel like you did it. So what, do you have any memories as I moderate it?
I want to pull a Mary.
Yeah, no, or anything you want to say. I think that's going to be a better way to put it, and then we'll just open it up to the room. I'm just really grateful. I've done a bunch of Q&As on the road, just me, so I haven't had the pleasure of sitting up here with other people.
I was happy to sit in that car. Demetri has very well stocked with dry Trader Joe's bananas.
That's right. I love those dry
I've never met
bananas.
a man who eats Trader Joe's bananas.
It's true.
And yet I had one in my bag earlier today. I was really
I like the baby bananas now. They have a new thing, dried baby bananas.
Yeah, guys, now you know.
That was the Q&A. I think Demetri has a head injury. It was strange.
I know, I have so many memories. It's so nice. I didn't realize I was the first person cast. When I saw this in Florida a couple weeks ago, and I was saying that this is, I think, the first audition ever where I literally did not improvise.
Wow.
And I know I had the option, but I was just like reading the script was just, I was like, oh, how cool, it's like real people, and it was just such a treat. And if someone gives me that chance, I always run with it. But I just remember being like, I don't need to touch this.
That's cool.
This is so lovely. I don't want to I didn't want to ruin it. But yeah, I adored this experience. And how many weeks did you shoot this in? Because it's really impressive.
Thanks. This was a 20-day shoot, so it was very difficult. I didn't know what I didn't know, so we had a company move across the country during a 20-day shoot, which is it's a kamikaze mission. This was absurd. It was no fun at all. I had a horrible time. I'm so glad I got a movie out of it. It was brutal.
But he would turn, we were literally locked out of a location at one point.
Yes.
And still got, I think the art gallery scene.
The art gallery, yeah. It was a nightmare. I can't even tell you half the time we didn't have a location the next day. People were like, oh, indie filmmaking's hard. And then halfway through the movie, the DP was like, just so you know, this is fucking ridiculous. It's not usually this hard. So it was extra special
But
hard.
he was great with all of that, and you were a great director. I
Thank you.
learned so much from you.
Oh, thanks, Ginger. I owe you $20. I appreciate it.
Banana bites.
And so for Briga, I wanted to say, I love Briga's performance in this as well. And we shot this quite a while ago. So Briga has a series now, which I think is fantastic. So everybody's doing all kinds of great stuff. So I got lucky. I got in early. Took a long time to make the movie, and everybody's stock went up. So now it looks like, oh, what a great job you did casting. I'm like, yeah.
Finally, in the nick of time.
Yeah, exactly. So the car scene. So it was 20 days principal photography, and then we did pickups almost a year later because I did a tour and stuff. It took a while to edit the movie. So one of the few things I got to reshoot was our scene when Briga asks me to get out of the car and she smacks me and stuff.
I'm so happy we did.
Yeah, because I love that scene. And what happened was when we shot it the first time, it was our last shoot day in LA, and it was a 19-hour shoot day, and it was really tough. And another nightmare situation here. This poor woman, the driving around, when she's driving and saying all that shit, that was, I think, around 5 a.m.
Yeah, that was
like a split day. That was like just driving around.
It was so fun though, because there were no cars out, and I just got to gun it down Hollywood Boulevard, and I was like, I'm alive!
Yeah, and it was great. But I felt like we asked a lot of you. DP was in the back seat, these French overs that learned the turn, shooting just over our shoulders. Anyway, that was tough, because then at the end of it, we had to do this scene where we're in the car, and we didn't have enough time. We didn't get it, and I was really upset. There were sound problems and all this stuff, and I was like, Briga was so funny in the audition. She's such a great improviser. She's so funny, and like, damn it, I know this scene can be better. So we got to reshoot that. She was available and came, and we did it, and it's one of my favorite scenes in the movie because I think your improvisation is so brilliant because I think a lot of people think they're good at improv, but they just go for a joke. But I think some people, they're going for that character. I feel like they're listening and they're present, and you feel like a real person.
Well, it was the most fun just because I haven't gotten to do somebody that was just, every other thing she does is contradicting her own intention.
Yeah.
And it's like, I hope she wasn't just a complete psychopath, but
No, she wasn't. I didn't know.
But sort of playing, just getting to just switch it up that much in a relatively short scene was so much fun.
My wife's favorite moment from the movie, if I have it right, she's here somewhere, but it's when we're in the art gallery later, and you go, hi. There's so much you put into that one little thing. We've watched that. I've seen it in the edit so many times, and I'm like, I fucking love this performance. I love this moment. You just start losing your mind when you're editing a movie forever, but And people went the extra mile. She didn't know Miles, the fake vampire guy.
I did not know.
And then they didn't have to kiss, that wasn't in the script, and they just gave me this great makeout as they disappeared behind that wall.
I do it
And I felt like, but I really felt like you found that character. So anyway, so thanks, but I'm sorry about that. We had to reshoot and all that stuff, so.
It was my favorite.
Okay, cool.
Apologies.
And so Reid played Brett, and this was for me one of the hardest parts to.
And you're sorry.
And I'm sorry because, what I'm sorry about, and mostly of course I'm just psyched that you guys did what you did, but it wasn't my fault, but there was a jackhammer, if you remember, we were shooting on the streets of New York. And actually what I am sorry about is, in the script, Reid's character we were supposed to be seen with a drone. I had him as this kind of tech-obsessed guy on the edge of like the latest developments in technology and stuff. And I found out, like with many of the details of the script, that I wasn't allowed, I couldn't do certain things. They're like, oh, you can't fucking fly a drone around Manhattan, like, that's not happening. So I was like, oh, but we're flying in this park. They're like, the only park they got us was in Queens, and it was in the flight path from 2 airports. So when we scouted that, I was like, they're like, you'll have to loop the whole scene. I'm like, what the fuck did you bring me here for? I can't do this. So we ended up walking around the streets of Manhattan there, because we had a grid permit, whatever. Best Q&A ever, by the way. This guy complained the whole time to pull up to this. Fuck great. So anyway, so sorry about that. There was supposed to be more to do with drones and all that kind of stuff, and we didn't get to do it.
We still had a good time with the drones, though. I mean, we shot it.
We shot it. We snuck it and crashed it into the Washington Square fountain. And I tried to use it, and it was the cheapest looking drone. It was just terrible. And then the Google Glass, there was supposed to be glass on those, and they couldn't get the glue. It didn't hold. God bless the prop department. They're like, sorry, it's not working. So they just gave it to him without the glass, but the glue was still on there. This poor guy was getting fucking high. Remember, you're like, sorry, buddy. His eyes were tearing and stuff. He's like, I need to say it.
As I was walking, like the simple draft of air of me walking, wafting this like toxic fumes into the eye, and I'm trying to be all sort of like,
Snappy.
chipper and snappy. But we shot a lot that day. We were in the West Village just walking around, but we covered a couple blocks.
Yeah.
With our little conversation.
That's right.
And we encountered like everything that could possibly go wrong. There's construction, there's garbage trucks, there's standers by walking through the shop.
It's nice in New York because I learned a lot about making independent film. In LA, everybody hates you. They don't give a shit about you or your movie, and they have on speed dial like the film commission, and they're going to tell on you immediately. And then we had a guy drive through our shop one night. Like, it was like midnight, we were done. This fucker drove through the shot at midnight, we were in the last shot. Then in New York, it's not like that. They're just more like, they'll walk through your shot, like, excuse me, we're shooting. Fuck you. Okay, cut. We can't use that. So it was kind of that kind of welcoming committee over there. So, but what I liked about Reid's performance, and when he came in, we talked about when he auditioned, which I was grateful for, was, again, I tried to just have the characters have a little humanity, not just be like a dude or his buddy or something, but have that vulnerability. And I felt like it really did come out in the third act. To me, that's a pivotal scene in the movie because, in a sense, you were saying you were playing me in real life right there, because it's been 23 years since I lost my dad, and when I talk about losing my father, I put into your character's mouth some of the things that are my real experience. If there's anything actually real, the only two real things for me in the movie were that, and I told a girl I loved her after dating for 3 weeks in real life once. And then we stopped dating at 3 weeks in a day after I said that. Basically never saw her again. So I learned that lesson pretty well. But that was, to me, a very important real thing. And it was interesting having people come in and read for the part, because people were aiming for the jokes, whichever jokes were there, but it was, the harder part was finding someone who would give me that performance and that kind of heft.
I remember that meeting very well in that the script was so well written, and I had been a fan of Demetri's, since like late 90s. I actually used to bartend at this bar in the East Village where Demetri would get up at open mic nights.
Yeah.
And
well, he told me when we were walking around the village that day, I didn't know that you had worked there. It's a bar called B3.
So I knew his comedy very well, and I loved the script, I loved the story. There was many aspects of the story that were seemingly almost autobiographical for myself, but when I met with Demetri, we were playing around with it, I think, I mean, correct, I think it was the same for you. We sort of connected over, like, I just asked you a very simple question. It was like, what is this story for you?
Yeah.
And we sort of connected over our similar experiences with some family things and like that, and
We're all fucked up. We're all
they're all
fucked
fucked up. Yeah, that's why we did this for a living.
That's right.
But it was, I think, and I hope you can see it in the film that it's got this honesty that just doesn't exist in a lot of movies these days, where it's like, just like you said, it doesn't go for the joke, it goes for the humanity.
Yeah.
And that was what made this whole thing so special. And I think even now, I mean, we've seen each other how many times now doing
Yeah.
screenings and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and everybody's gotten kind of close. I think we've all sort of like bonded over the fact that we all found this sort of common thread through this movie.
Yeah, I think that's true.
I think that.
Except for Briga.
And then
Yeah.
there's Briga, yeah.
She's more showbiz.
No,
I think nobody laughed at that. They're just like, oh, Briga, screw her.
Just call me just
Nice earrings, Briga.
But I was gonna say, I feel like that's a very, what you said, everyone was very honest. I feel like, I personally felt like everyone bonded so much on this film, and instantly, I mean, we did have a lot of downtime sitting in cars and doing stuff like that, but most of the time we were chatting.
Because I left you in that.
But most of the time we were all going pretty deep and learning
Yeah.
a lot of cool, like, all of us, Rory and Gillian.
Yeah.
And it's so nice. And I just wanted to add something that I know Gillian would want to say too, is when we both read this script, we were so refreshed with how cool the female roles were, and just Gillian's backstory of her breakup is not some breakup with a dude or whatever. It's a friendship and a business that went awry, and it was just so
And there
nice
was a
to
scene.
read.
We lost some scenes. There was more to the movie, some of the stuff, and then just as I edited, I had to kind of. But there was a good scene, yeah. And you too. I wanted to pass the Bechdel test, and I did in an early cut of the movie, where Ginger and Gillian were talking in her car, and then just as again with editing, I kept losing things that were important to me to get the movie to work. So I hope next time, but to me that's important, you know. And I think it's humbling as a man to try to write roles for women, because I don't have that experience, and it's difficult. And I think, you know, I'm not arrogant enough to think, yeah, I'll write these lady parts, and that sounded terrible. these roles, whatever. All right. My point is, of course, just to, you know, I think there's so much to learn. Stand-up doesn't teach you how to write for other people. If you're lucky, you learn how to write for yourself, but it's very self-involved. It doesn't teach you how to collaborate and how to listen. It teaches you vigilance, sudden movements. Fucking with me, you know what I mean? You just gotta watch out for hecklers or something. So this is a whole different experience to try to write for other people. I think it teaches you a lot about empathy. And if you're lucky, you get to think about what other people are going through, and hopefully somewhere in there develop real sounding characters, you know. Why don't we take some questions, if anybody has a question or a comment? Yes, ma'am. Oh, thanks. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Great, so the question was the music. How did it come together? I had a great team. Mark Noseworthy is the guitarist for Edward Sharp, and he did some music for us. Some beautiful guitar pieces, like when I'm on the date with Nikki, and later when we're in San Francisco. Pete Dello is the music that you hear mostly through the movie. So he released one solo album in 1970 called Into Your Ears, and most of the songs you hear are from that album. That's an album that I happen to own. When I've heard stories of people writing a movie as they have the soundtrack, you know, they're writing the music. Not me. I was just trying to get a script to work, shot the thing, we got to the edit, and I was like, okay, what kind of music can I put in here? We didn't have a budget for music. We started with some of my own guitar stuff, and I put it against picture, and it just wasn't good enough. It just pulled the movie down, and it really felt much smaller than it feels now. So I started looking through my CDs. I came across my Pete Dello album, and I tried the first song that you hear in the movie, where you see it in the beginning of the movie, and I thought it worked so nicely, tonally. The timbre of his voice, it's period music, and
the production value is excellent, I think, because I have a lot of nuggets and other late 60s, early 70s stuff, and some of it sounds almost nostalgic, you know what I mean? But his music to me didn't. I kept trying different tracks as I went through the cut, with no guarantee that I would get the music or would be able to afford it. I was just trying to see if it would work. Then I looked up to see if he's alive. Where does he live? He is alive. He lives in the UK. That's where he's from. So I emailed him. I found an email address. I actually emailed one email address that got me to him, and I introduced myself and said, I've made this movie, I'm a fan of your music. Is there any chance? And he was really nice. He wrote back and directed me to somebody, and we did this deal and eventually got the music. He was really generous. We paid not much to get the songs in the movie. We busted our music budget to get that, but we did it. And to me, it's a really important part of the movie. I love Hal Ashby. Well, the first time I saw Harold and Maude, Cat Stevens as kind of a musical backbone through that movie, to me, was a big part of that movie. This is not Harold and Maude, but still, I like that idea. Of course, The Graduate, you have Simon and Garfunkel. So to me, there's an homage to movies made at an earlier time, and to have that voice, there's a sweetness and a tenderness in his vocals, too, that I think really serve the movie nicely. Any other questions? Yes?
Thanks for coming. The film was lovely.
Oh, thanks.
I'd like to hear just a sentence or two from each of you, and maybe you can speak for Gillian's character of what you think your characters are up to now.
Interesting. What do we think our characters are up to now? Well, mine, I would say, I wanted to end the movie on kind of a hopeful note. So the original ending, I actually, as I wrote it, was that I leave and I go chase her. I go back to California. First cut of the movie, it seemed like that wasn't right. Because I go through this whole thing, I finally reconnect with my dad, and then I'm like, okay, see you. You good, Dad? Okay, bye. And it just wasn't right. So I think that, one of the interesting things by design was that father and son never tell each other that they've met someone. So they're on these parallel tracks that are more similar than they realize maybe, but we get to be the third person in that situation. I think there's intimacy when you look at the public versus private that a character is going through, right? So kind of we privately get to see, he meets Nikki and Dad meets Carol, but yet they don't share it with each other in a sense. So I think maybe there's like a new chapter in the father-son relationship, and they're talking more about the women they've met. I thought it was kind of cool to have Mary's character almost calling Kevin's bluff. That Dad seems like, I'm okay, I'm doing the steps and I'm working through whatever his plan is. And then she shows up and he's like, great, you're good? Okay, let's do this. And then he's like, oh, wait a minute, maybe I'm not good. Whereas my character's trying to just put it on Gillian, just, hey, you're going to save me kind of thing. So I don't know if that's really an answer, but I'm going to count it as one. What do you guys think? What are you doing now as characters?
Becca has a one-woman show for sure. And she's got to be doing something else, like maybe she's catfishing somebody or something.
Yeah. And that's what the one-woman show is about. It's actually she's getting material.
Her experiences in catfishing.
Yeah.
Where she's the victim.
Reverse catfish.
I think Jill, ironically enough, is dating Rory's character. And it's really turned her around, and they have cats, and she's all about it. She builds the little things.
The furniture, that's disgusting.
Yeah.
Rory didn't tell me he was allergic to cats until we got to the apartment that day. So you'll notice he loves his cat so much, but he never touches it. He's like, hey buddy, stay over there.
He told me before, he was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Yeah, I'm allergic too, so I was like, it's cool, man. Me too. So, kind of a tough day.
I think Brett bought a bunch of Snapchat stock and an electric car.
Yeah.
And he's just flying that drone off.
Just living life.
Yeah.
Just ingesting those fumes from this fake Google Glass. We shot this quite a while ago, so one interview I did, the guy gave me kind of a backhanded thing. So are you worried that people don't really wear Google Glass anymore? No, I'm not worried, asshole. I'm just happy the fucking movie's done. Just cut me Yes, I'm worried. That's going to break this movie, this $100 million blockbuster that we made.
Scorsese can be such a dick.
I know, right? What's Carol doing?
Oh, you know what? They had to get together because he's
Yeah.
Kevin Kline.
That's right. Yes.
Where did you find a brilliant editor?
Oh, that's a great question. Where did I find that brilliant editor? I agree with you. His name is Josh Salzberg, and he did such a wonderful job. And if you knew what he and I kind of went through to get this to what it is now, he really, we edited the film at my house, and he came over, every day. And I have a little boy who's 3 now, but he was younger then, and they kind of hit it off, which was great. But he just kind of joined my family for a while, and we tried to figure this thing out. And really patient, creative guy, very collaborative. Editing is such a mysterious, dark art. It really is, to me, where the movie comes to life. And especially a film like this, where I was trying to have the drawings work and use the music and play some games, kind of like the subtitles in the club scene, or the silent, mini kind of silent film stuff like On the Altar, or, in the flashbacks, it's not the most elaborate movie, but it is a movie that could go wrong pretty easily, because I don't want to distract people. You know what I mean? I want the drawing to support the moment, to support the emotion, and elucidate some things about the character and what he's going through, but I don't want it to be a gimmick, and then it kind of takes you out of the movie. So with Josh, it turned out he liked my stand-up, and so he was kind of a fan. We didn't know each other, so he was willing to, work on it. Yeah, and I'm really grateful. I hope I get to work with him again.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So how did the drawings, chicken or egg? I mean, how many of the drawings are the drawings that you pictured when you wrote the movie, and how many of them changed because of what you shot?
So it was about 50-50 in the script. So I did this book called Point Your Face at This a few years ago, and it's a book of drawings. So some of these drawings are from that book. When I sat down to write the script, I knew I'd make the character a cartoonist or illustrator rather than a comedian, because of this big rectangle I have to tell the story on. I thought, I can put drawings up there and I can split the screen. It'd be cool to see how the live action and the drawings work with each other, So I had a running start. It turned out I had a lot of drawings about death, I think just because my dad had passed, and my mom sadly is sick. She has Alzheimer's, and she got sick about 8-9 years ago. So it's, again, kind of dealing with that, because she's kind of gone in a lot of ways. So I think even subconsciously you can't control it sometimes, but that's what comes out. Another Grim Reaper drawing, whatever. So I realized, okay, there's something here. And then about half of them I had to generate for the movie specifically, and specifically in the edit, because what happened was the early cut of the movie was top-heavy, front-loaded. A lot of drawings in the first act to establish this thing. And then they just vanished for a while. So when I had a cut of the movie, I had to do drawings in the edit to get it to work and say, this needs to stay alive to get us to the third act. So it's about half and half, I'd say. Yes? Thanks.
I'm wondering how the film is different from your original vision before.
How's the film different from my original vision? Well, the script is not that different, but what happened was, I'll give you some examples of just the heartbreak of making a movie that I knew that happened, but I didn't quite get how profound that is. So simple things like, okay, we write in the middle of the movie, around the midpoint, I pictured a scene where Rory and he's like, I'm going to take you someplace I go to think. He drives me in his convertible up, God bless you, all the way to, the helipad there in Griffith Park. On a sunny day, we drive up, there's music playing, and he does donuts. I'm in the passenger seat, and he's just doing donuts, and LA is in the background, and this dust is like kicking up. A wide shot of the car doing donuts, we're laughing, I'm having a great time, and then we're in the car, and you see me, and we're going around, and it's like this release, I'm really escaping this kind of false victory or whatever. So my producers look at the script, they're like, so you can't do that. You need a stunt driver, you need insurance, we're not allowed in the park, you can't get a car up there during the day. All this, I was like, shit, this was like a big emotional moment in the movie. Okay. All right. They drive up there, but they have BMX bikes, and they used to ride when they were in college together for fun. They do the bikes in circles, and they do bunny hops and wheelies and stuff up there. Yeah, you can't do that. You can't have bikes up there. It's another 5 reasons. I'm like, can they ride bikes in the fucking sewer? Yeah, you can go to the sewer. Ride in the fucking sewer, stupid. Thank you. Let's go down there. So that's just one of about 90 things that changed that I thought I had worked out in the script. We get down there to the LA River, by the way, and it's just covered with slime. There's just like sludge on the ground. It's definitely toxic. So I thought we were going to be doing wheelies and shit. You know what I mean? I can do some tricks on a bike. Not bragging, but hey, I'm 44. That's my generation. So I was like, cool, I can do, bunny hops and stuff. We could barely ride without falling. So the first shot is that ride shot when Roy, he enters the frame and he eats it immediately. You see him go down. And the friend in me, I was worried. I was like, oh my God, did he break his tailbone? Is he okay? But the director in me was like, yes, I can use that. We're going to use that. So then we quickly went in and got coverage and had some dialogue that we made up there about him falling and everything. So that was here's another example. I thought in the script there was a car accident. So when we drive back from the beach, Gillian's character is driving me from the beach. We're flirting. She's not paying attention. She rear-ends somebody. Now, we pull over. She gets out of the car. She's like, just stay here. I got this. She goes out and she deals with the driver. He's all mad. But I get to watch her charming him. So the window becomes like my own little movie screen. And I watch this silent film of this girl. I'm falling for her. I'm watching her charm this guy. And she comes all of a sudden, opens my door, grabs cash out of the glove compartment, just gives him money. They hug and he drives away. And I thought this was kind of a nice moment, So we show up on the day to shoot that scene. We have a process trailer. I'm sure most of you who are in Hollywood who know what that is, but it's the cars on the back of this trailer. So she's not going to actually drive and do this stunt and everything, right? We're on a trailer. They hit stop forever. So we get there and they're like, okay, here's your location. It was on Venice Boulevard. There's like 30 feet with orange cones. I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, yeah, this is it. This is what we permitted. You can do it right here. The trailer's fucking 30 feet long. The trailer is the same length as you know what I mean? So, okay, action. Every time, as soon as we pull out, we had to be flirting and then stop real fast. Back it up. 10 feet. Let's do it again. Okay, it took so long to get her side to work because those were the constraints we had. By the time we shot my side of the car, the light had changed outside. So it's the middle of the day on her side of the car. On my side, it's dusk. So I get to the edit, and it's like a time travel component now to the movie. It's not possible. I'm not stupid. There's no way. You can't color correct. I'm not God. I can't change. You know what I mean? So, shit. I thought this was an important scene. You know what I mean? But it became a montage. It became 20 seconds. But we shot this whole thing. So, I mean, I'm not going to keep complaining about stuff, but I guess my point is I did work out a lot in the script, I thought, and then it's that adage, I guess, which is you write the movie 3 times. Script, then shooting, then editing. So I found that to be true. Okay, I think we have time for one more, or maybe 2 if I give short answers, or whoever answers gives short answers. So do we have any more questions? Or yes?
Hey, could you talk about maybe the casting, how Mary came on board and how kind of defined it, as well as how CBS Films got involved?
Sure. The question was about casting. How did Mary come on board, and Kevin, and then how did we end up partnering with CBS Films here? So, and Mary, you can probably speak to this a little bit better, but what happened was I sent the script to Kevin through my agents. I didn't know him, and I was certainly a fan. We got him the script, and he responded enough to it to agree to have lunch with me. So I flew to New York, and we had a lunch meeting. And it went really well, but he didn't say, cool, I'll do the movie at the end of lunch. But it seemed like there was a chance, the conversation would continue. So it took a couple of months, but then he said, yes, I'll do it. I said to him, look, what can I offer you here? There's no budget, and he's Kevin Kline. This isn't going to change that. This is not going to do anything for him. So, it's nice that if he liked the material, he thought it might be fun to do it. I said, what I can offer you is tell me who you'd like to work with. Do you have a friend, someone you've never been able to work with, or someone you enjoy working with? And I'll go to that person first. He said Mary Steenburgen. I was thrilled. I'm a fan of Mary's from way back. you know, like Kevin, growing up, you see these actors and, you know, they're part of your understanding of movies and everything. So when he said Mary, I thought, oh, that'd be great if she'd want to do it. So then we reached out to Mary, and I'm guessing, you know, you heard, oh, Kevin, and as you said, your son was familiar with my stuff, so, you know, there's certainly some luck involved there. But once you get Kevin, it does become a different project. The dominoes start to fall, you know. The financing came through because of Kevin. A big part of the reason this movie exists is because of him. And then, you know, I was delighted to have Mary and Kevin. And I'll tell you something funny, which was the first thing I ever got to direct that I wasn't in was a scene with Mary and Kevin in the house. And I got to come to the set that day. They gave me the headphones. I go to Video Village. I get to be behind there, like, okay, action, you know, here we go. And they're doing their thing. I'm watching them on the monitor. And I'm watching the scene, and I can picture myself now, like, my head just kind of tilting, and like, wow, look at that. You see two movie stars on a screen, and you're like, man, I'm watching a finished movie here. They do the scene, it's lovely, and then all of a sudden they like break the fourth wall, and they look at me through the screen. It's because they ran out of lines, because I never yelled cut. I was just kind of pulled into the, like, oh, this is nice. And then like, oh, cut, sorry, cut, shit, cut. And then I realized, oh, I can't just keep saying great after every take. I sound like a moron. I gotta come up with some shit here. You're like, hey, that was great. How did you guys think that was great? And yeah, sure, it was fine. You know, they were totally nice about it. But and then I, you know, settled down and I started saying, okay, hey, can we try this? Or, you know, can you give me that or whatever? But, yeah. And then we went to Tribeca after the movie was done. And CBS Films, somebody from CBS saw it there. And then they were interested. And then we did a deal, and they've been, you know, supporting the movie and are going to distribute it. So I'm, you know, beyond thrilled.
Did you win anything special at Tribeca?
Yes, and we won the Founders Prize. I think it's called at Tribeca. Yeah, we won this Narrative Feature Prize, which is very unexpected. In fact, I left the festival to go do a stand-up day in San Diego before the awards ceremony, because I was really just trying to, you know, hope that it would not be embarrassing. When you're a writer, director, and all that stuff, you're playing a very dangerous game because you have control, but, you know, it's all on you. And you get to the edit, you get to protect yourself, you get to see your nose from angles you never imagined, which is a wonderful experience for me. But yeah, they won this prize, so that was great. Okay, so I think we're going to wrap it up. I just want to say thank you so much for being here tonight, and thank you to all of you for coming out. It's been quite a journey. Cheers.